There was a young woman in the room, sat roughly where Kevin is, and as we go around the room doing those introduction things like we've just done, we get to this young lass, Jenny she was called, and she said, I hate speaking in public. She said, I hate doing stuff like this. I'm really shy and I hate it. And she said it just like that. And I thought, if that's shy, I would like to see assertive coming out of your mouth. Because it was anything but, nobody that I know would call her behaving shy. And when I was talking to her, I said, what on earth? How on earth could you judge you as being shy? This woman was training to be a barrister. That's how shy she was. I said, how could you judge that yourself as being shy? And we were talking over the room time, and she said, I've been told by my family all my life that I'm shy. And it's almost like she had that identity that overrode anything else. And I think this identity stuff, whenever we say I am, whatever goes ... after that is an identity. And some of them serve you beautifully well. So I am a good trainer. That serves me really well. But also, I have an identity that is, I am not creative. Now that's nonsense, isn't it? Because it's like, of course I create stuff. We wouldn't be here if I couldn't do something creatively. But I have this identity that I'm not creative. And then that identity stuff, it has a big impact on your life. So this process that we'll do before we finish today, it's a nice process that allows you to leave behind those unhelpful identities. And it can be useful for just like everyday stuff. But also, I have to say, I've used this as a go-to process for some quite heavy stuff as well. So I've used it quite a lot with people who've been abused. So I had somebody come to see me a year ago or something like that. And she's a counsellor herself, gone through all sorts of stuff. But she said, I can't get rid of this identity that that I've been abused. And we actually did this process. I never saw her again, so I assumed it worked. Maybe it was just rubbish and she didn't like it, I don't know. But I assumed it worked. So I've used this a lot for even sort of quite strong things. So the process itself, you can use it for light stuff. It's very, very short. It's sort of based in submodalities. Very short, but you can use it for anything where somebody has a limited identity. You can help them let go of it if it's the right thing to do. And I think it's not. It's one of my go-to things. But before we get to it, the test time is always the thing. There is no such thing as your identity. It doesn't exist as like a flip chart easel or a pen or anything like that. Your identity doesn't exist. It's a convenient nominalisation that we use just so we can it's a nominalisation and a generalisation. Because in fact you're a phenomenal range of stuff, aren't you? A phenomenal range of processes. So, you're a sort of musculoskeletal set of processes, so you've bones and muscles that move about. You're a biochemical set of processes, you're in an energetic set of processes, you're an emotional set of processes, you're a spiritual set of processes, you're an enormous set of processes. But that's far too complex for us to handle. As human beings, we can do like 7 plus or minus 2 consciously. So all of that stuff is too hard. So what we do is we say, I'm shy, or I'm not creative, or I'm whatever it might be. Yeah? Did I hear you saying something about I'm a self-harmer or something like that? Or
I had a client who
no, not you personally. But this is the way that we make life simple, is we stick an identity to it. Yeah. And if the identity is helpful, fabulous, brilliant, wonderful. But if it's not, and you set it as that big filter, it's rubbish. It's really, really horrible. So I think this stuff, they're nominalisations, and they're big old generalisations. Because if I say I am, it sort of intends, or it means, whatever I say I am, there's almost like an identity after that, isn't there? So, and we do this for all sorts of stuff. So we do it for health is a big thing, isn't it? So I am diabetic, I'm arthritic. Hospitals give it to you as well, so it's like it can be laid on you. It's not just something you decide, other people can give this stuff to you. But the truth of the matter is, whatever you think you are, and this is one of my favourite lines out of NLP, whatever you think you are, you're always more than that. And I think that's a really lovely line. Whatever you think you are, you're always more than that. Because we're not single, simple creatures. We're immensely sophisticated and complex. So if I'm going, I am, and then something that's not very good, then what I do is I box myself in, I set my filters for stuff, I'm very forgetful. I've worked with people who said, oh yeah, I'm really forgetful now. And then they assume that colours the rest of their life. And then I say, what's my name? They say, Chris. I said, well, you're not that forgetful, are you? But it's like they put that limit, that deficit, to something much higher. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, identity is a very, very powerful thing. If we've got limited identities, then you can actually use this process to sort of let them go where they need to go. Has that made just a bit of sense? Yeah. Very, very hot art. So this process is it's a bit submodality-like, and it's based on a notion. It actually comes from the Hawaiian Huna. So there's an enormous amount of NLP comes from the Hawaiian Huna. So Tad James, who was one of the sort of next generation developers after Bandler and Grinder, he lived in Hawaii at the time. And NLP is all about modelling. So he went and modelled what the Polynesians did, what the Hawaiians did, because they have some really, really fabulous sort of processes and strategies for mental good health and psychological good health and all the rest of it. And this process that we'll go into is our variation of a Huna technique that they use at the end of each day. And they use it to clean up their relationship with other people. And it's based on a notion that whatever's gone on between you and somebody else, there's the two like players involved. So there's me here. So if it were me and John, there'd be like me here, and there's John over there. And those are two of the sort of characters involved. But the other thing they talk about is, and there's the connection between you and the other person. So it's not just you, it's not just them, but there's the thing that connects the two of you. And the process works around that connection. I think it's dead good for that. So in the Huna tradition, people do this at the end of every day to release the connection between them and other people. So if you've had a falling out day, if you've been naughty with folk and you've had a falling out, what you do is you release that day's stuff, so that when you come to be with them tomorrow, you're with them afresh. So it's like every day is a brand new day. So the process is about that. I've just remembered I forgot something that I wanted to show you. I'm just going to jump back to identity. The second Master Practitioner course I did about 10, 11, 12 years ago, they had a guy called John McWhirter there. He's a Scottish NLP trainer, man with a brain the size of the planet. He could do dense theory about NLP in a way that was just astonishing. My head hurt. It felt like my ears were bleeding after a day with him. But he shared this one thing about identity, and I just thought it was a very elegant way of getting across the notion. So it goes like this. What do you see when you look at that? You see?
The doorknob.
And then if I put that, someone's eyes, and then I do that and that. Dice. Start doing more of that. 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 Square. Square. See the shape of the square? Does I do that? I think this is what identity is about. I think what happens with identity, John, if you want to just like it, that's fine. I think what happens with identity is like stuff happens in life. So, you know that thing about I'm not creative?
Yes.
So, I remember drawing a picture when I was little. My brother's 6 years older than me, come back from school, he'd done this painting of an octopus. A sort of seascape painting of an octopus. He was probably 12 and I was probably 6. My mum and dad liked it that much, they had it framed. In glass. I was that envious, I was knocking out drawings, left, right and centre like that. And I kept going up and saying, look what I've drawn. And they say, look at that makes picture up on the wall there. So it's like I lay down a job that's like I'm not creative. I can't paint. I can't draw. Then I go to school. Most of the time, I mean, you've seen me drawings, haven't you? You've seen me communication. Well, it don't get any better. So I have a sequence of dots that emerge over life, that turn into, I connect them, I get a shape that says I'm not creative. Does that make sense to you as a notion? Yeah. Now the thing is, what happens with identity is it's not just about behaviour. Because you can all see a square then. Okay? So if I just rub out one dot, you still get a square. No? Can you see the after image of a square? Like the memory of a square? So I think what happens is I might change behaviours, but for a lot of us what we continue to see is like that after image of the square. And I know for me, I can rub out lots and lots of dots, but I've still got a square. It's a bit like, you know, if you've looked at the sun and then you can't get rid of that after image of it. So even though I might have changed all the behaviours that went with I'm not creative, I'm shy, I might have changed behaviourally, but what I've still got is like that after image of I'm not creative. So behavioural, it's not real anymore. What I have is the after image. And for me, even if I wipe the whole lot out, I can still see the after image of the square, even though there's nothing there. So it might not be there in behavioural, like here and now behaviour. Because the thing is, whatever your identity is, it didn't start this morning. Identity isn't like that. Identity is like that generalisation from past experience that we then, it's like we generalise, we put a word to it, we nominalise it. I'm shy, I'm a self-harmer, I'm a whatever, I'm a smoker, I'm a drinker, I'm a whatever. And if we do that for negative stuff, it has a big impact on us. If we do it for positive stuff, it can have a big impact in a very positive way. Does that make some sense? So this process is a way of releasing unhelpful identity while not leaving behind any of the positives that go with it. Because you'll know the NLP presupposition about all behaviour has a positive intention. So if I've kept hold of an identity, say I'm not creative, if I've kept hold of that, I've kept hold of it because there's been a good reason for me to do it. And in fact, on the morning session, I've taken myself through this. And what I realised was I kept hold of that I'm not creative thing to save me from the hurt of ridicule, from doing drawings that people then laugh at and compare them to the bastard brother's drawings. Sorry. I've got to get some NLP about how I make, I really have. But it's like I've kept that identity to protect me from hurt. I think that's been the positive intention of sustaining the identity. And actually, I don't need it, you know, that was probably all right when I was 6. I'm 58, for goodness sake, you know, I've got other resources to protect myself. So I can afford to let that identity go. So, the way this happens is, I'll talk you through it, and then I've been looking for a demo, somebody to volunteer for a demo. So the way it works is, first of all, you get the person, you can do it content-free, so you don't have to share anything, get the person to come up with a representation of that old identity. So as I was thinking about this stuff this morning while people were practicing, I thought, what's my identity of the Chris that's not creative? And I had this little distant picture over there, a little boy wearing a knitted green card. I couldn't even remember the cloth, so I had like a very clear representation way over there. So you get the person to notice how they represent it, and also to notice what's the connection between you in the here and now. So you in, what day are we on, 26th of May 2012, and that old identity. So for me, it's like there was a thick cord. I represented it as a thick cord that went from my heart to that little lad over there. And you know, this stuff, it's only in your imagination, it's in your representation. Second thing is to think about what's the positive intention of having kept that connection going. So all behaviour has a positive intention. What's my positive intention with keeping that going? And that's where I came across, actually, it's like I kept it there because I didn't want to have the mick taken out. I didn't want to sort of feel vulnerable. I mean, my brother used to take the piss mercy. So I identified like protecting myself as the positive intention. Third thing is you create a representation of an evolving you. So this is a you that you're becoming. A you that's like 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, that you're growing into. And a you that captures the positive intention of that connection. So you create an alternative you, generally to the right-hand side, a representation of an evolving you that has all the qualities that connection's kept in your life. And having got that, then what you do is you sever the connection between you and the old unhelpful identity, knowing that you've kept the positive stuff in this growing representation, and you allow that old identity to sort of float off into memory, wherever that should be. So it's a very sort of internal process, very submodality based. You can do it absolutely content free. And what I'd like to do is take somebody through it. And you'll remember from doing practitioner training, if you're doing anything where people's attention is going to their internal world, you sit side by side. So I don't want to be sat in front of Sarah because she'll be seeing me as that negative identity. I don't want that. And the other thing is just to check the side thing. So let's just notice this way around Sarah, and then sit there. And if you have a preference, do you want me here or there? You choose. You want me to start? I thought you get it. So I'll take Sarah through this. It's largely content-free and largely processed on the inside, so the purpose of the demo is so you guys can sort of get a bit more familiar with the process. And we can either do it content-free, or you can just tell us briefly what the identity is. It's entirely up to you.
I don't mind saying, I've always considered myself as an absolute sweet tooth and chocoholic.
Okay. So the I am, the identity is I am a self-confessed chocoholic.
Yeah. But over recent years, I think it's always been there a little bit, but over recent years I've developed a very, very acute sensitivity to sugar.
Okay.
Which is
so I'm a chocoholic who reacts badly to sugar.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
It's not a great combo.
Not a great combo. Fabulous. So we're just working with that connection, that identity of you just give me a short phrase for it. So can we go for chocoholic or?
Yeah, I tend to say to people I'm a self-confessed chocoholic.
Self-confessed chocoholic. Cool.
So, which I always thought was quite a good thing that I'm into.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that cures it, Sarah. That's the thing.
No, I'm realising that now.
Doesn't it? You can justify it.
Yeah. And it's a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous. My name's Chris, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Sarah, I'm a self-confessed chocoholic. So I just want you to process this stuff on the inside, give me a nod as this is appropriate, Sarah. So first of all, the first thing I'd like you to do, so you've got that past limiting identity that you're still connected to, I'm a self-confessed chocoholic. What I'd like you to do is to allow a representation of that you, that self-confessed chocoholic Sarah. Let that form. So in whatever way you represent it, it's absolutely fine. And notice whereabouts it is. So notice whereabouts in your visual field or whereabouts is the location of it. And how you represent that you that's the self-confessed chocoholic. That's okay. It doesn't mean you have to stop. So you've got representation. Yeah. And then the second thing I'd like you to notice is how do you represent your attachment or connection to that you? So there's Sarah sat next to me now, that's on the 26th of May in the sanctuary. There's that representation. So notice how you connect, how you represent the connection. It could be the light, a rope, a chain,
One of those retractable washing lines.
a retractable washing line, fabulous.
Never.
And just to yourself describe the nature of the connection, what you can see, what you can feel, maybe what you can hear if there's anything. And just notice that for yourself. Like that? Cool. So second stage of the work is to identify the positive intention of keeping the connection. So what I'd like you to do first of all, Sarah, is just to think about, just to consider using your hand or whatever you need to sever that connection. And just notice what your emotional reaction is to seriously considering severing the connection to that identity. And now, gently ask yourself, for any positive purposes or actual benefits that this connection provides in your life. No, just give me a number.
Yeah, okay.
And the third part is I'm going to ask you to create a representation of an evolving you. So this is a new improved Sarah. Generally create it in a space a little to your right. And this is a representation of your evolving self. So an image of a you who's already addressed and gone beyond those limiting identity issues of that self-confessed chocoholic stuff. And this you includes all positive intentions without any negative identity. And this you is an evolving you. It's evolving daily. It's becoming more of you, the you who you want to be each day. It's a guide, a companion, like a best mate, who's just a few steps ahead of you, who loves you, has a sense of humour, and will be your companion now and out into the future. And I just think this is a nice thing to do anyway, so it's having one of them anyway. So you've got the evolving you. So the next step is you get the person to release the connection. So what I'd like you to do, Sarah, is to gently release the connection to that old identity. So in whatever way works for you, you can cut it, melt it, have it evaporate, move it away, whatever works for you. And unhook it, that's it, you unhook it. So you might have to let it go because you don't want to take somebody's eye out because it is. So you let it retract back to that old you. And to connect with your evolving self in exactly the same way. So you've got a really strong connection between you today and that evolving self that's a few steps ahead of you. And then you've to really respect the other identity, that old you that you've released, because it's been doing the best it knows for a long time. And change the submodalities of the representation of that old you in whatever way is appropriate. So let it go to a place that's appropriate, and that change its size and shape, knowing that you're no longer connected to it at all. And it can drift off to a place that is, yeah, that was a me that once was. It's not a me that I am. Now the final bit is a future pace. So what I'd ask you to think about is have a think about some future experiences. And future experiences that involve chocolates and stuff. And just notice now how your new self handles those experiences. And how different that is from the way you would have handled it before.
To get ingredients to mix and
Very good. And just ask your unconscious mind to do whatever it might need to do to really embed that change. You can thank that old part for having been there because it was doing what it best it would do. Let it drift to wherever it needs to. And do whatever it is you might need to do. Into the room. Okay, how was that? Is there anything else we could do for you around that right now?
Do I need, what the issue of it?
What we've just basically.
Do I need to almost actively connect to that future
To
tense
the-
one?
Well, that's the behaviour, so the identity you've connected to. So what you might do is take yourself through logical levels as a way of bringing that identity back into behaviour.
Yeah.
So that's like a follow-on to this as a technique to bring it from that abstract identity
Yeah.
into how do I practically behave with that.
But there's not meant to be a connected like a cord kind of thing. Right.
No, just that would flow from the identity.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Smashing.
Thank you very much. And applause for Sarah.